After becoming stuck badly, this wild horse had given up all hope of ever being free again. But then, a miracle occurred, and it was let loose once again. Depending on where you live, seeing feral horses might be somewhat of an unusual event. For example, you'll only be able to find them at a select few locations throughout the United Kingdom. One of these locations may be found in Gower, in the southwestern region of Wales, along the Laufer estuary. And it was just here that one unfortunate horse found herself in a precarious circumstance. The natural landscape that includes Gower and the Laufer estuary is breathtaking. On the other hand, because of its position, it has a somewhat sizable tidal pool. This means that when the tide is low, the water recedes pretty far up to the estuary, leaving behind a wide tract of low-lying marshland where horses may often be spotted grazing. When the tide is high, the water extends fairly far up to the estuary. On the other hand, this also indicates that when the tide changes, it is capable of swallowing up the whole marsh in a matter of just a few hours. Most creatures that live on the land when the seas are high will leave when the seas return to normal levels. In 2018, however, this turned out to be quite a significant issue for one wild horse who found herself unable to travel. The horse had been mired in the marshes, and to make things worse, she was accompanied by a naive foal that refused to leave its mother. This made the situation much more difficult. On that particular day, a member of the general public happened to be out and about taking a stroll when they came across a horse that had fallen and was attempting to get back up on her feet again. Someone hastily dialed the number for the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, which is more often referred to as the RSPCA. This individual was concerned for the animal's welfare since the tide would soon be coming back in. They informed the other members of the organization about the predicament and the means to locate assistance for the disadvantaged animals. In addition to this, they guaranteed that they would remain with the horses while they awaited the arrival of the volunteers. Volunteers from the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals eventually came to the scene after around a half an hour of waiting and were shocked to discover how hopeless and distressing the situation actually was. The white mare was stranded on a little cliff that was located out in the wetlands. She was resting her head on the earth while her chestnut-colored foal was nearby, acting very anxiously and pacing back and forth. Because the horse seemed to be in rather good shape at first glance, the people who came to her aid were perplexed as to what exactly was wrong with her. However, as the volunteers approached the horse, they quickly realized what had happened. It was discovered that the mare had been entangled in her matted mane, which caused her right hind leg to get trapped. The volunteers were at a loss to explain how she did it, but their best guess was that she was scratching an itch close to her head when she got her foot hooked. After discovering the source of the issue, the people trying to save the entangled mare were responsible for devising a solution to the predicament. They were aware that they needed to handle the problem with caution to avoid frightening the horse any more than she already was. They didn't want to make her more anxious than she already was. She attempted to get up and run away from the scene out of worry that she might injure the volunteers, or even worse, aggravate the injury she already had to her leg. They only had a limited amount of resources on them, and there was certainly nothing that could help carry an injured horse and her foal, so if she were to break her leg, for example, the rescuers would be in a lot of trouble. If she were to break her leg, the rescuers would be in great danger. With this in mind, and to save the mare and her foal before the tide came in, the rescue workers approached them safely and cautiously. The fact that the mare was cornered on the ground reduced the likelihood that she would rush at them, but the volunteers still needed to be cautious around the foal. Even while it could seem to be rather little and not dangerous, it might yet carry quite a punch by either kicking them out of its way or attempting to bite them. As soon as the volunteers attempted to get closer to the mare, she immediately began struggling to get back on her feet to get away from them. She rapidly, however, sank back to the ground. Her foal started to pace up and down in the meantime, wary of the approaching strangers, yet cautious not to wander too far from its mother. The foal fled to the side as soon as the volunteers were just a few feet away from the mare, leaving them unable to catch it, but yet near enough to see what was happening. The volunteers found this to be incredibly beneficial, as they could now approach the mother horse without being concerned about the baby attempting to frighten them away. One of the volunteers slowly approached the mare's back and sat down close to her head. But the mare was frightened and very wary. She was unaccustomed to human contact due to her untamed nature, and she was unsure of how to respond. She started to jerk her head around and even tried to rise again. Though the volunteer was adamant about helping the animal, He began massaging the horse's head and neck in an attempt to calm her down and reassure her that they were simply there to assist her. The mare immediately started to relax after experiencing that kind and comforting touch. She then put her head on the ground, almost as if she understood that they were there to assist her and release her from her shackles. Once the volunteer was certain that the horse wouldn't attempt to flee once again, the knife was used to gently remove the matted area of her mane that was holding her foot in place. After doing that, he swiftly rose from the ground and hurried away from the homeless person to avoid speaking to her or obstructing her while she adjusted to being free once again. The woman gently set herself up once the guy was moved out of the way and glanced about, perhaps analyzing her predicament and realizing that she had finally recovered the use of all of her legs. Additionally, her foal returned to her. Even so, it still gave a wide margin to all the volunteers in the area and stood close by as if to prod its mother to attempt to get up once again. The white horse needed a bit longer to gather her confidence before attempting to stand back up. She only succeeded in doing so for a few seconds before collapsing back to the ground. The length of time the mare had been trapped was unknown to the RSPCA rescuers. However, it had been long enough for her leg to begin deteriorating from lack of use. They started to fear that the horse's leg was hurt, even though there was no obvious wound. A little while later, the mare attempted to get up again, and eventually succeeded as they started debating whether to request reinforcements. She stood back up on all fours. The mare and her foal struggled to get out of the little ditch they were trapped in at first. The white horse then stopped so that she could gather her bearings and her confidence in walking. She turned around to face the rescuers, who were all overjoyed to see the lovely animal and her young again in good health. Before leaving the marshes with her calf, the white mare gave a collective nod to all of the RSPCA employees as if to express gratitude for their assistance. The two horses were spared, and the RSPCA volunteers made their way back to their automobiles, pleased that they had been able to save these lovely animals' lives. Many thanks to these kind helpers and the concerned citizen. Had they been left to fend for themselves as the flood rose once again, these two horses may have suffered a dreadful ending. It only serves as more proof that one of the finest things to do in life is to be nice to those who need it, whether they are people or animals. So what did you learn from this story? Please let us know in the comments below if you enjoyed this tale. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to get future updates and even more wonderful content.